Hi, Michael and Middleton here, continuing on with the reading of my allegorical fiction novel, The Great Deep. And again, I will freeze frame the back for you. You can pause if this is the first video you're running across to get an idea about the general content of the book. And then we'll begin. This is chapter 18. I preface it with a poem that has to do with the topic of the chapter. So the poem is called Fishing. A flick and a zip dropped the lad's lure on water white as cream. A streak of silver, splashed with pine and peach, slices through the frantic stream. A lunge and a tug, a stripping of line, fulfills the young boy's dream. Chapter 18. William's dad woke him a few minutes before 5 a.m. the next morning. "Come on, sleepy boy," he crowed, shaking William's shoulder. "We're burning daylight." William rolled over, cracking his eyelids. "What?" he huffed sleepily. Then, rubbing his face and yawning deeply, he said, "Oh yeah, fishing, right." "Leslie said that she would do your egg collection today," Jacob began. "I guess the big city girl wants to get in a little bit of country before she heads home." William began to acknowledge his dad verbally, but was interrupted by another yawn. He nodded his acknowledgement instead. "Okay, well, just put some clothes on and get your fishing stuff ready," Jacob cheerfully concluded. "I'll be in the kitchen throwing us together a quick breakfast. There's supposed to be cooler weather blowing in, so it ought to be really good fishing today." As Jacob turned and headed for the kitchen, William sat up on his knees, bracing his elbows on the windowsill. Inhaling the crisp morning air, he took in the exotic pre-dawn colors. A very thin yellowish-orange line hugged the horizon. This melted into a lighter shade of aqua, unlike anything he had seen before. Further up into the sky, the aqua took on a tinge of green before deepening to an odd color somewhere between blue and black. "Should you have some strange sunrises here," he thought. Turning from the window, William climbed down from his bed and shuffled off towards the bathroom. He clicked on the light, squinting while his eyes adjusted to the brightness. He then groggily brushed his teeth and splashed a little cold water in his face before returning to his bedroom. There he pulled clothes from the closet and got dressed for the day. It took him a moment to remember where he had left his wallet, which contained his first official fishing license, one of the many rites of passage leading towards manhood. Retrieving the wallet from the top of his dresser, he then collected the fishing pole and tackle box he received for his birthday, where they sat near the foot of his bed. On the way out to the kitchen, he recalled his new pocket knife. Spotting it on the nightstand, he paced back over and plopped it into his pants pocket. He stood there for a moment until he was reasonably sure that he wasn't forgetting anything else. Satisfied, he sauntered off towards the kitchen. On the way, he paused at the front door. Opening the door, he set his tackle box on the porch outside. He then leaned his pole against the side of the house next to the tackle box. Closing the door again, he continued on to the kitchen. As he entered the kitchen, Jacob was setting a used frying pan down into the sink. He turned on the water, filling the pan, and added a little soap. "That'll have to soak for a while," he began. The first batch of bacon got a little done. A thick layer of gray, greasy smoke hugged the ceiling. William paced over to the window with the blue curtains, unlatching it and pushing it open. "You're dangerous, Dad," he quipped. "Not as bad as Mom, but still pretty dangerous." "Unless you want to be getting your breakfast through an IV," Jacob jested, "you'd better cut out the wisecracks." "Well, if you're going to have a grease fire," William retorted as he took a seat, "a house that's one big pile of logs isn't the smartest place to do it." Jacob dropped a plate of bacon and eggs in front of his son. "Scrambled okay?" he asked, ignoring William's last comment. "Sure, fine," William replied. "Can you grab the Tabasco when you get back for the toast?" Jacob nodded and returned to the counter by the sink. He collected 2 sets of silverware, The toast he'd prepared, and a large bottle of Tabasco brand pepper sauce. After placing these on the small table by the window where William sat in eager anticipation, he finally returned for his own plate of food. After wolfing down their breakfast, father and son placed their dishes in the sink and headed for the car. "Just toss your stuff in the back seat with mine," Jacob instructed as he opened the driver's side door. "Did you remember your fishing license?" "Sure did," William chirped. "What kind of fish are we going after today anyway?" Jacob latched his seatbelt and turned the key. A few pumps on the gas pedal and the car roared to life. "Oh, there's a few different kinds," he answered. "There's trout, of course, and smallmouth bass, sunfish, some pretty decent crappie. Sometimes you'll pull a catfish out of one of the deeper holes." William latched his seatbelt and pulled the car door shut. From a small cooler in the back seat came a sound akin to popcorn popping. William curiously glanced over his shoulder as Jacob shifted the car into gear and asked, "Dad, what's that?" "What's what?" Jacob pressed. "I think there's something alive in the lunchbox," William declared. "Oh, that's not lunch, silly boy," Jacob chuckled. "Well, not our lunch anyway. I caught a few crickets and grasshoppers last night to use for bait. I dug a few worms out of the garden, too." "Crickets?" William asked. "Live crickets?" "Nothing better for trout," Jacob assured him. "They work pretty good for bass, too. And if you want to try for a catfish, you gotta have a worm on your line. Little cubes of hot dog on a small hook work really well for crappie, so I threw in a couple of them as well." "Well, I might try the hot dog thing," William said, "but as for the bugs and worms, I think I'll just stick to spinners and spoons." A few minutes of travel down the bumpy country lane brought them to a wide turnout, a short walk from the banks of the Agua Fria River. Jacob pulled the car over under a cottonwood tree and came to a stop. A cloud of dust lingered in the morning air as he turned the engine off, opened his door, and stepped out. "Grab your stuff, son," he said. "Let's not keep the fish waiting." Jacob and William collected their fishing gear from the back seat of the family car. Jacob then led the way as they shuffled off towards the river. Reaching the bank, he turned to William and announced, "I'm heading upstream a bit. There's a nice hole just below that point up there." "Okay, Dad," William replied. "I'll try around the bridge here." "There's some pretty snaggy rocks," Jacob informed him. "If you're going to use a spinner, you better make it a small one." "Okay, Dad, thanks," William replied as Jacob paced off towards a gravel point some 60 yards or so upstream. William set his tackle box down and slipped together the two pieces of his fishing pole. Making sure that they were positioned correctly, he fed line from the reel and threaded it through the eyelets. He then opened his tackle box and retrieved a snap swivel. After he tied it to the line, he searched through the tackle box for just the right lure. Noticing that the water was fairly cloudy, he selected a small yellow and green spinner with a bright silver blade. "Yeah, that'll do," he thought. On his fourth cast, William got his first strike. However, he tried to set the hook a little too quickly and missed the opportunity. Noting the spot where he had felt the strike, he made the cast about 8 feet beyond it and began slowly reeling in the line. When he again felt a light strike on the lure, he let it settle for a half second before beginning to bump it once more in a start and stop fashion. One more light strike was followed by a jolt so strong and sudden that it nearly pulled the pole out of his hand. He yanked on the pole, setting the hook deeply. There was a loud zinging sound as line stripped from the reel. "Fish on!" he hollered in gleeful enthusiasm. Twitching his pole this way and that, William did what he could to steer the prey closer to the clear of the partially submerged brush and other potential entanglements where it was attempting to find sanctuary. "Oh, no, you don't. Get back here," William chided as he paced up and down the bank of the river, taking up line whenever he could. He was about to holler for his dad to bring the net, but as he turned upstream, he noted that he was busy with a fish of his own. "Nuts," he thought. "I'll have to let him get real tired out, I guess." After a couple more minutes of playing the fish out, William turned upstream to see his dad walking towards him with the net. Jacob called out, "Hey there, son. What you got on the line?" "I think it's a trout," William replied, "but I haven't got him in close enough to see yet. He's a beast." Just then, William's line took off upstream, slicing through the water. Tiny droplets sprang from the line as it pulled taut, threatening to break. Through the cloudy stream, Jacob caught a quick glance at the fish as it turned broadside to the shore. "Wow, he is huge. Don't you dare lose him, boy. Keep playing him out and let him get tired. I'll net him when he gets close enough." Jacob waded out into the chilly water until it had climbed halfway up to his shins. William played the fish back in his direction as he tensely waited. When the fish swam close enough, Jacob lunged at it with the net. "Dang, missed him," he apologetically announced. "Bring him around again." Now aware of Jacob's proximity, the fish swung wide and took off upstream, heading for the submerged brush again. "Ho there," Jacob shouted. "Keep him out of that brush, boy." Yeah, I know," William replied. "He tried that before." The next time William got the fish within striking distance of the net, Jacob managed to land him. "Great fish," he exclaimed as he walked back to the shore. Lifting it by one of its gill plates, he held the fish up for William to see. William's eyes ogled the 18-inch long monster. It looked somewhat like a large cutthroat trout, but had a yellow head with black spots. A band along the top of its back was a light metallic blue color, and its fins were yellowish-orange. "What kind of trout is that?" he asked. "That's a Gila trout," Jacob replied, "an Arizona native. It's a real lunker, too. That's just about as big as they get. Great catch, son." Somewhat confused, William asked, "Gila? Like that weird lizard thing?" "No, that's different," Jacob replied, somewhat amused at his son's confused inquiry. William took the fish from his dad and threaded it onto the stringer. He then tied the opposite end to a large tree branch that lay along the riverbank before lowering the fish back into the chilly water. William smiled with a grim satisfaction as the trout immediately made a break for the open water, only to discover the limiting factor of the stringer. "Fat chance," William taunted. Over the next few hours, William caught several more fish. 3 more trout were added to his stringer, as well as 2 smallmouth bass. Changing his line over to a hook and bobber setup, he then waded downstream to a deep, calm stretch of river. He diced several small cubes from a hot dog he had retrieved from the cooler, and ended up adding 3 large crappie to the stringer as well. Jacob finished the expedition with 2 trout and 3 catfish. When the fishing began to slow down in the early afternoon, they decided to pack up and head home for a late lunch. The pain of the stringer cutting into his hand as he returned to the car delighted William to no end. "I can't believe I outfished Dad," he thought. As they pulled up to the house, William slyly began, "It's still loser cleans the fish, right?" "Just itching for the belt, aren't we?" Jacob jokingly replied as he stepped out of the car. "Put your stuff away, Mr. Smarty. I'll take care of the fish." William triumphantly stowed his pole and tackle box back in his room before heading out to the kitchen. As he made himself a couple of sandwiches, he shared every detail of the day with his grandma and his sister Leslie, who was planning to leave for home early the next morning. Jacob, who was cleaning the fish in the utility room sink, pretended not to hear. When William had finished eating lunch, he returned to his room to grab his new BB gun. He couldn't wait to try it out. As he made his way back through the house, his mom spotted him as she carried a laundry basket down the stairs. "Hey there, buckaroo," she said. "Are you off to murder some soup cans?" "Yeah, I thought I'd squeeze in a little mayhem before dinner," William quipped. "See, if you really want to make Dad stay, ask him how the fishing trip went." Teresa caught the hint. "Oh, really?" she grinned. "I'll do that." As William passed the utility room, he stopped to check on his dad's progress with the fish. Jacob set the task aside for a moment to make sure the son knew how to safely use the BB gun. That's the business end, he said. Always be aware of where it's pointed, even if you don't think there's any BBs left in it. Before he went outside, William retrieved a small wooden crate from the back corner of the room. To his delight, there were several old cans sitting inside of it. He carried the crate with him as he walked outside and across the back lawn to the far end of the house. He set the BB gun down and paced over a tree that stood near the edge of the lawn and dumped the cans out of the crate. After placing the crate upside down in front of the tree, he set the cans up on it before returning to where the BB gun lay near the garden shed. A small canister of ammunition had come with the BB gun. Withdrawing this from his pocket, he filled the air rifle with copper spheres until it wouldn't hold anymore. He then pumped the handle as many times as he could before taking aim at the stack of cans. He took a deep breath, holding it as he sighted down the barrel across the lawn and to the O on the label of family-sized soup can. Squinting one eye, he prepared for the moment of victory. "Hey, what's up, Billy?" Sharon Stewart interrupted him. "I hear you had a birthday or something." She approached him from his left, rounding the corner of the house and pacing across the lawn, casually gazing at the can-covered crate. Still taking aim at the cans, William experienced a brief flash of evil intent. No, William, he thought, you'd never live to see 13. The brief flash of sadistic anger was quickly replaced by a sudden twinge of conscience. Despite the sting of her chiding, William was aware that he hadn't exactly been neighborly to her either. This new feeling caught him somewhat off guard. Somehow, something was different inside of him now. "Hiya, Sherry Pie," he said, in a deliberately inoffensive tone. "Yeah, it was yesterday. I would have invited you, but we went out of town." He squeezed off the first shot, just missing one of the cans. "No problem," Sharon replied. "I was shopping with my mom all day. We stopped for pizza on the way home." William paused, leaning the BB gun against the garden shed. He then turned toward Sharon and shyly began, I'm sorry for not being so nice to you before." Sharon blushed slightly and looked aside as William continued. "It's just that, I've never had to move to a new place before, and it's been really hard leaving all my friends behind." "Yeah, I was kind of a little mean-spirited too," Sharon confessed. "I just get a little disturbed when people make fun of my hair. And besides," she playfully glared, "you did heave a rock at me." After a moment of silence, she extended a pinky. "Truce," she offered. William momentarily clasped her extended pinky with his own. "Truce," he agreed. "You know," he then began, "my mom's got red hair too. She'd kill me outright if she ever found out that I'd made fun of a redhead." "Like my dad says," Sharon replied, "forgiven means forgotten." "I've got to get going now," she continued. "See you later, silly Billy." William waved goodbye before turning to retrieve his BB gun. A small light had gone on inside of him. He was indeed somehow different now. And remember, all sales of this book and all my others benefit Youth with the Mission Faith Harvest Helpers. Get a good read and do a good deed. Details in the description of the video.